So these are some of the things which I'm going to discuss. Can you see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that's why I have given the title Poverty, Inequality and Development. First, since I am from the economics background, I always look at the issue through how the theorists have understood. So we have many theories, starting from classical economists to present Thomas Piketty. According to classical economists, if there are poor, they are poor because they don't want to come out from that poor situation. They are not willing to come out from the situation of poor. It is their own fault. There is no fault of government or the system or the society, a person being a poor. Poor is poor because he is willing to be poor. That is the kind of version they have. Whereas the neoclassical economist, the poor because of the government. The government has not ensured equal opportunity to all. And the government has failed to make the market function accordingly so that each and everyone should get benefit. That's why it is the government responsible if there are poor in the economy or the society. As far as the Marx is concerned, it is the system which has made the poor. And the Keynes talks about the government intervention is necessary to address the problem of poor and inequality. And according to Keynes, we all live in the short run, not in the long run. So that you make each and everyone to be able to make their own demand out of their income. So this was the argument given by the Keynes. And the modern development approaches talks about the welfare. It is not only the development, it is not only the poor or the inequality. They talk about the welfare, welfare of the people, happiness of the people, equality of the people, equity among the people. So they talk about the many utopian things, but the approaches have not changed. And now the question is whether the state has to intervene in addressing the issue of poverty or not. Some says yes, the government is directly responsible and the government needs to intervene in solving the problem of poverty, because there are people not included in the process of development. It is the responsibility of the government to make them include in the process of development while using the inclusive strategies. And Thomas Piketty is one of the modern writer who talks about the development and inequality very largely. He says that the chronic capitalism in the modern economy is held responsible for the inequality and poverty and unsustained development. So that is the argument of Thomas Piketty. It is because of the chronic capitalism. I will, if somebody asks what is that chronic capital, I can discuss later. And according to Simon Kuznets, the inequality is the inverted U hypothesis. It's a kind of inverted U. If you write the U instead of like this, if you write like this, inverted U, if you write like this, meaning in the early stages of development, inequality also increases. After attaining certain level of development, the inequality will come down. That is the argument made by the Simon Kuznets. And the Marx, again, I call back, it is according to our Mahatma Gandhi, it is the greediness of the people, the greediness of the capitalists, the greediness of the governments, the greediness of the some people makes the world unequal, unstable. It is the Karl Marx, the capital accumulation theory, what the Karl Marx propounded, so which is having the basis of the Mahatma Gandhi and the many other writers. So they strongly oppose. The world has created sufficient resources and facilities to have a peaceful life, but the greediness of the people has made it all these resources and facilities only available to few, not to all. There starts the problem of poverty, inequality, unsustained development. So this is based on these theoretical backgrounds. I'm moving on to poverty. So what is the poverty? It is, there are many different types of poverties. We can talk about the absolute poverty, relative poverty, comparative poverty, and we can, whenever we talk about the poverty, how do you define the poverty? What is the yardstick for defining poverty? Do you define based on the income or the expenditure on the intake, or how do you define? So defining poverty itself is very questionable, but some of the definitions explains it should be the state of the condition in which a person or community lacks the resources and essential for a minimum standard of living. So the minimum standard of living, it also advocates the decent standard of living. The one has to live with dignity, with minimum standard of life. So otherwise he will be, or that community or that society or that country will be treated as poor. If the country is not having dignity, if the country is not having a minimum standard of life for all, that also treated as the poor. But the World Bank defines in another way, if a person is having less than $1.9, he will be treated as extreme poor. If a person is not having $3.2, will be treated as the high poverty. And if a person is not having the income of $5.5, he will be treated as the low poverty. Extreme poverty, very bad. High poverty, bad. Low poverty, it's a poverty. Okay, so there are about 43.6% of the people in the world are living under the low poverty, under the poverty, just a poverty. So based on the minimum daily requirement, if a person in a rural area unable to take the calories of 2,400, and a person in urban area unable to take the calories of 2,100, will be treated as poor. But apart from all these things, you can see here, some talk about the money, some talks about the calories intakes, some talks about what about the resources, standard of living. But the issues are not limited to only food or the income. There are multi-dimensional issues. So if a person is having food, if not having education, can you treat him as a rich man? No, it is not possible. So he is also equally lack of things. So therefore, whether a person is having food, having facility, basic facilities, having education, having health facilities, we need to be considered many things while talking about the poverty. So we have the two, so we have the multi-dimensional poverty index. So where we can measure and talks about the issue of multi-dimensional poverty. And in the United Nations, they have defined the two different types of the poverties, which are known as human poverty 1 and human poverty 2. Human poverty 1 and human poverty 2. So what is this? Human poverty 1, it is in the developing and underdeveloping countries, whereas in the human poverty in the developed countries. So in the developing countries or the underdeveloped country, it is the absolute poverty, whereas in the upper countries or the rich countries, the poverty, it is the relative poverty. If a person is having 2 cars, the neighbor is having 1 car, having 1 car will be treated as poor. He is not absolutely poor. Even then he will be treated as poor. Having 1 car is poor, having 2 cars is not poor. So that is the kind of poverty exists in developed countries. So there are many studies related to what is the amount of poverty in India, particularly in India. Here I am talking about many people: Suresh Tendulkar, Rangarajan, a Dutch Bank research team, and Sandhya Krishna, Neeraj Hatekar. There are many people who have tried to estimate the amount of poverty in India, particularly during 2010 and between 2010 and 2014. Sorry, between. So you can see the numbers. It is starts from 354 million, 269 millions, and 454 millions. So there are different numbers, and the percentage is also varies: 29%, 21%, 39, 38%, and 29%. But almost they are nearing 30%. You can understand. You can see they are almost, the center point is 30. Meaning in India, we are having almost 30% of poverty. So whatever the numbers given by the government or the estimates. So by looking into all these things, we can talk about, yes, in India, we are having poverty. Poverty, about almost 30% of the people are incapable of having a nutritious 2 meal a day, at least. They are not having a standard of living. They are living without dignity, because poverty is always go with low dignity. So therefore, even though poor may be living dignifiedly living, but by the world is not looks like that. So why this kind of the poverty exist? Why this kind of the inequality exist? This is the question. Why? Because the development opportunities are not equally distributed among the countries, among the communities, among the different people. Because some people are having a rich resources, some people are not having rich resources. For example, America and most of the European countries are abundantly having both natural resources and capital, that is money, abundantly having these resources. Whereas in like India, you are having abundant human resources, but you are not equally sufficient with the capital. So whereas in countries like Iran, Iraq, Middle East, they are having abundant natural resources. Even South Africa, they are having natural resources, such a large natural resources, but they are not having an efficient human resource and capital. So these kind of, there are countries like Japan and the Asian tigers. So they are lack of both natural resources and capitals. Only with the efficient human capital, only with the efficient human capital, they have been able to convert their poor country into rich countries or the high income countries. So these are the cases. The countries are having resources but not used it properly. There are countries having less resources and used very inefficiently, become poor. The countries having resources and used efficiently convert their poor country into rich country. So this is how some countries are become developed, some countries become developing, and some countries still they are poor. So in 1978, the World Bank has categorized the countries of the world into two groups. In 1987, the countries of the world, no rich country, only lower income countries and middle income countries. In 1987, sorry, in 1978, so lower countries and upper income countries. And in 1983, again, the middle income group split into two groups as the lower middle income and upper middle income. And in the finally in 1989, the definition of the high income country has entered into the classification. Accordingly, today we have, it is starting from 1978, because based on this only, I am categorizing the countries of the world as the lower income countries, lower middle income countries, upper middle income countries, and higher income countries. So now there are four different types of the countries: lower, lower middle, upper middle, and high income countries. So what is the threshold for categorizing like this? If the countries are having, as per the 2019 benchmark, as on 2019, if a country is having the income, the per capita net national income of $1,025 and less than that, that will be treated as low income. If the income, per capita income is between 1,025 and 3,995, the country will be treated as lower middle income. If the income is between 3,995 and 12,375, will be treated as upper middle income country. And if the income is above 12,375, will be treated as high income countries, right? So there are four groups: less than $1,025, between $1,000 and $3,095, and 3,000 to 12,000, and above 12,000. So, and there is one more possibility: a country being in lower group in the year 1978, maybe remain in the same group, maybe move to upper middle, lower middle, or the high income group. There are countries, though they have categorized as classified as low income, they have moved from low income to lower middle. For example, India. In 1987, India was in the lower income group, low income group country. But now India is in lower middle income group. So these are the chances. A country may be in lower middle, maybe move to upper middle. A country may be in the middle income and move to higher income groups. So like that. So that is at the international level. But why there are differences? Why are there inequalities in a subnational levels? Like, so at the national level, okay. Among the at world level, yes, there are developed countries, developing countries. But why at the national level? Why there are states having a high growth, and why there are states having low? Why some people are rich, some people are poor within a country? Because under the constitution, whether it's an Indian constitution or the Pakistan constitution or the American constitution, no constitution will say you can do injustice. No constitution will say you can create inequality. So all constitutions ensures equal opportunity to everybody. But why? 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 Because at the basic level, the capacity of receiving, the capacity of attaining are different. There are people, there are communities, there are regions, there are sections, there are states, there are districts where the capacity of receiving itself is very less. For people, those who are very close to power, I'm talking about the power, the people very close to power, they have a lot of opportunity gaining out of the development process. The people, those who have the capacity to participate in the development will be left out. So what the trickle down effect theory says, it says if the government pour the benefits into some basin, the benefit will be equally distributed to all the people. No, it is not like this. Who are in the center of the basin, they will get more because the gravity works, right? Because of the gravity, people who are directly having the link with the government at the point of benefit, they will get benefit. For example, when there is a bus stand, those who are close to bus stand have a lot of benefits. Those who are stay away from the bus stand, they are not having that much of benefits. It's very true. So like that, a trickle down theory will not be realized in any of the countries of the world. Most of the countries are not realized trickle down. That's why even at the subnational level, at the district level or the state levels or the community levels, so we have inequalities. So India is the diversified country having all the features of explained above. India has moved from, as I already told, moved from low income to lower middle income group at the world level. India has taken 70 years to move from low income to lower middle income. So only recently in the year 2016-17, India moved into lower middle income. What is the income there? So we all talk about India is world leader, India is shining. I don't deny all those things. So the income of Norway is 74,000. Sir, per capita income, I'm talking about income. The income of Norway is $74,000. The per capita income of India is around 1,000, 1,200, 1,000. Can you imagine the life and the standard of the people living in Norway with $74,000 and the life and the standard of the people living in India with $1,000? And within that $1,000, most of these 1,000s are in the hands of very few people, right? Because in India, 80% of the income is concentrated only within the only 20% of the people. So meaning most of the people are not having even $100, not $1,000, not $100. Therefore, though we have moved from lower income to lower middle income, still there are poverty, still there are inequality. What happens? Let it be the inequality exists. What happens? So whenever you talk about let the inequality be, so there will be a poverty, because if there is a poverty, there must be the rich people, because opportunities are concentrated at one place and there are lack of opportunities for the people, for the communities. So which leads to inequality. Let the inequality be. What happens? Whenever you have inequality, there is always risk for the sustainability of life. That's very, very important. You may say, I have food, I will eat. If somebody is not having, why should I bother? No, one day he keeps quiet, 2 days he keeps quiet. Third day, when he's very hungry, he will steal your food, definitely. So that I'm given a simple example. So like that, always inequality of extreme kinds always threat to the sustainability of the societies. So therefore, we need to address both the problems simultaneously, poverty as well as inequality. So what happens when there is an inequality? Just I'll give some examples. You can see here education. If a person is having money, can send his daughter or son to a good school, good college, to engineering college, or to a medical college, or to IIT, IIM, or to the Tata Institute, or to REVA, or the Ajim Premji Institute, where the children can get very good quality education and will be settled with high package salary, with high salary package. Am I right or wrong? So if a person is incapable of sending his daughter or son to good school, sending only the very poor standard government schools, I am not exaggerating. Yes, most of the studies says, except in Delhi, most of the states are not providing quality education at the government schools. So sending the government schools, because of the poverty, sometimes he missed the schools. Because of poverty, he may be, or that girl may be, go to work, earn something. So there are hurdles for the students, to poor students, to go to regularly go to the schools, get the education, may not be able to pay for the fees. So in studies already revealed that most of the students, poor students, go to schools till the end of the exam, but unable to fail the fee, and they will not go for the exams, and the studies will be discontinued. So these are the cases. So therefore, you are creating unequal world at the education level. You are providing good education to few people and the very poor quality education to large section of the people. And when they are not having the entitlements, how can they earn? How can they lead their own life? So we are injecting the inequality at the level of schools. At least provide quality education to all, equal quality education to all. You can address these issues, but you are not talking about that. So you are talking about creating private schools, private colleges, because government is poor. Government schools are poor. No, improve them. We are not giving our attention to that. We're talking about quality in private is good. That's why you send your student to create more private schools, private colleges, private universities. That is the attitude. And then health. So health for the longer life. Longer life, not only longer life, it should be longer, healthier life. A poor person who is incapable of taking the nutritious, balanced diet, how can he expect a good quality life, healthier life? It is not possible. And income, already I have discussed many things about that. When you are not having income, the dignity will not come. So it is the decent kind of life, leading life is not possible. So those only who have income have dignity. So we are all experienced in this India, how the money is talks. It is not the person talks, it's the money talks. And then poverty and sustainability. So when there is an act, whether it is any kind of the activity, it definitely it has the two kind of the issues. One is the impact. There will be an impact, and there will be an incidence. The impact may be equally distributed, but the incidence of any act, negative incidence of any act is more on poor. The positive impact of the incidence of the act is more on rich people. Let me give you a small example. If there is an increase in the price, if there is an increase in the inflation, okay, the poor will suffer because he is become more incapable of purchasing goods and services. Whereas the beneficiaries of the price hike will get more benefit. So therefore, always the incidence of the development process The negative incidence of the development process is more on poor. The positive incidence of the development process is more on this one, rich people. So here the sustainability. If the development process is more of sustainable, poor will be get benefited. For example, if there is a flood, where the flood, whom the flood will affect? If there is a more rain, whom the more rain will disturbs? It is the poor. It is the people, those who are living in the slum, will be having more problem. If there is a land, the kind of any disturbance on the land, it is the poor will have a lot of problem, not the rich. Somehow they will escape, right? So I have explained this argument of Simon Kuznets. So in the beginning years of the development, you could see here. Yeah, look at here. In the beginning of the development process, as the development increases, the inequality also increases. Whereas as the development reaches a certain point, the inequality goes to high. And after the further increase in the development, inequality has to come down. Inequality has to come down. I and my student in some study, we have proved that there are two processes in India. One is the development process, and the another one is the growth process. The development process is the human development process, where we are giving importance to education and health. And there is one more process, that is the growth process. Growth is different, development is different. Development is a structural change, whereas the growth, it is only income, increase in income. In India, the income is increasing, and which is also leading to inequality. Whereas in India, the development process is trying to bring down the inequality. So therefore, the government needs to give more importance to development. Development meaning give importance to education, give importance to health, give importance to creation of the basic facilities to the people. So that process will bring down the inequality. Instead of that, if you given more importance to increase the GDP in the way of through some few people, only the few people will get more benefit, not all. The inequality increases. And this is the process I have told. In the next slide, I am clearly explaining. If a country or community having the low resources, that will produce, the production will be less, the marketing will be less, the consumption will be less, there will be less income, and again, this is a vicious circle, right? Whereas if the country is having a rich resources, there will be a very good production, there will be very good marketing, there will be a very good consumption, and again the process go to the next level, next higher level. So therefore, we need to break this low level equilibrium. This is the vicious circle. This is the vicious circle of low level equilibrium. We need to break. For breaking, it is not only the government, each and every person has to be involved effectively, efficiently. Then only we can break this low level equilibrium. We can break this vicious circle. Okay, let me come down to, this is an empirical work that we have done for categorizing the countries of the world. So we have categorized the countries of the world. Almost we have taken 20 years data. We have taken 20 years data, and we have taken almost 40 countries to make the classification and understand the existence of inequality at the world level. Existence of inequality at the world level. Just this is an example I am giving here. Left hand side I am showing the GDP, and the right hand side I am showing the per capita income. And you can see here the lower income countries, their GDP is very close to zero. The high income countries, the GDP is very high. In the same way, even for the per capita income, here you can see the per capita income of the high income countries is more than 20,000, whereas the per capita income of lower middle income, lower middle, upper middle, they're all very close to zero, except upper middle. Up to lower middle, the per capita income is very less. So, and you can see here at the other side, more than 20,000. That is the high income countries, because the country which is having more than 12,000 will be treated as high income countries. So 12,000 and greater than, more than that, high income, high per capita income. So who are the countries? I am here presenting the data for what do you call? Yeah, just a minute. I'm just moving my this one. Yeah, I'm not able to see because of that bar. Okay. Here I'm presenting the data for almost 20 years. As I told, the World Bank has categorized the countries of the world as the low income countries, lower middle income countries, upper middle income, and high income countries. I'm trying to see whether a country is being only in the lower, or moving from lower to lower middle, being only in the lower middle, or moving from lower to upper middle, or only in the middle, upper middle, or moving from middle income to high income. So this is the intention, the process of development, just to understand the process of development. So in this presentation, at the left hand side of mine, I have GDP, and the right hand side of I am presenting per capita income. You can see that. So look at here, Nepal, Benin, Togo, Zimbabwe, the GDP is low and they have remained in the low. And as per the per capita income concerned, Nepal, Benin, Togo, Zimbabwe, they were low per capita countries, remained low. So I'm presenting just 20 years data, how they are moving. So it's about a country being lower and being in the lower. And this is the country being in lower as far as move to lower middle income per capita, based on per capita, moving from lower to lower middle. Look at here, the country was in middle and being in the lower middle. The country was, in terms of per capita, the countries were in lower middle and being in lower middle only in terms of per capita. In terms of GDP, there were countries in the lower middle and moved to upper middle class. In terms of per capita, they were with lower middle and now they have moved to upper middle. So countries like Ricosta and Benave, Colombia, Zambia, Mexico, like these countries, they have moved. I'm come to that. Just I'm showing. There were upper middle countries in terms of GDP. Even today, they are in the upper middle or in the high income one. In terms of per capita, the countries moved from upper middle to high income, and high income one to high income one. Yeah, now you can clearly see here what we have done. So here, in terms of GDP, it is in terms of GDP, Nepal, Benin, Togo, Zimbabwe were in the lower group, lower income groups. Even today, they're all in lower income group. And at the same time, Nepal is achieving the growth at 7.3, but not sufficient. Zimbabwe is achieving the growth at the rate of 1.24. That is also not sufficient to move from lower to at least lower middle. The countries like Bangladesh, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Pakistan, India, Ghana, Kenya, Sri Lanka, they were in lower income groups. Now, including India, all these countries have moved to lower middle income in terms of GDP, right? The growth during this period, the growth of Sri Lanka is very high, the growth of Nigeria is very low. And there are countries, these countries, Philippines, Bolivia, Guatemala, Morocco, they were in lower middle, now they have moved to lower middle income. They were in lower middle, even today they are all in lower middle. What I mean to say, their growth process is not very attractive or active. And Guatemala achieved the highest growth during this period, Morocco lowest. Look at here, there are countries, Peru, Colombia, Jamaica, Botswana, Mexico, Malaysia, Costa Rica. These countries were in the lower middle income groups. Now they have moved into upper middle income. The growth of Colombia was very high with 8.64. The growth of Jamaica is very low, even though low, it is 5.56, right? And there are countries like were in the upper middle, being in the upper middle. Chile, Brazil, Panama, Iran, Algeria, Gabon, Greece. These were countries in the upper middle. Even today, they are all in upper middle. So Chile, highest growth, Greece, lowest growth. And high income, and they are still remaining in the high. Israel, Spain, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom, they were all listed as high income countries in 1987, and even today they are all high income countries. Ireland growth was very high, UK very less. Both will come in England. So in terms of per capita income, energy consumption and energy efficiency, because here we are trying to talk about two more things, because energy is the most powerful yardstick or the powerful media to achieve the development, to ensure the development. So energy plays a major role in all development process. You may ask me, the cost of energy in the development process is very, very less. Even though it is less, if you remove that, there is no development process. There is no production process. There is no consumption. There is no production. There is no transportation. Nothing will happen without energy. So therefore, having sufficient efficient energy is also a prerequisite for development. So having said that, just I'm linking energy with the per capita income and the countries. So as I have seen, the per capita income of Nepal, Benin, Togo, Zimbabwe is very less, and the energy consumption and energy efficiency is also very less. That's what I mean. So in countries where the energy consumption is very, very low, in the countries where the energy efficiency is low, their per capita income is also low. That's the meaning I mean to say. So here the lower to middle. So here also, like the per capita income, Bangladesh is what, low and increased. Consumption was low and increased. Efficiency was low and increased. That's why these countries, including India, the consumption of electricity increased, consumption of energy increased. At the same level, efficiency of energy consumption is also increased. That's why their per capita increased, and these countries have moved from lower to middle. Again, the same fashion, lower to middle income, per capita increased because of the increased consumption and efficiency. Again, middle to upper middle, upper middle to upper middle, and then high income countries. Just I am moving fast because I don't know what one I have to start. Sorry, one the closing time. Before that, I should have at least 10 minutes of time for discussion. Okay, that's why I moved very fast. Thank you. In 2018, 4 out of 5 people below the international poverty line lived in rural area. Meaning, if there are 5 people in the world identified as poor, out of these 5, 4 people are living in rural area. Meaning, the possibility of being poor is more in rural area. And next one, half of the poor of the world are children, not the adults. Half of the poor are children. And being women, the possibility of becoming poor is very, very high. Right? About 70% of the global poor aged between 15 and over have no schooling or only some basic education. 70%. I've already told, being poor, sending their students to school is difficult, and attending examination further difficult. 70% of the poor are not completing their primary education. Almost half of poor people in sub-Sahara Africa live in just 5 countries. So world's poverty: Nigeria, Democratic Republic of Congo, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Madagascar. In only these 5 countries, almost half of the poor, African poor. More than 40% of the global poor live in economies affected by fragility, that means inconsistency, conflict, and violence. And that the number is expected to rise from 67% in the next decade, from 40% to 67%. If you have fragility means not stable government, not progressive government, not equitable government. Having conflict, like conflict of social interest, conflict of economic interest, conflict of political interest, conflict of any other gender or any religious interest. Because of this fragility and conflicts, the result of violence, if these things remains, the poverty will move from 40 to 67%. So therefore, the country should be out of fragility, out of conflict, out of violence. About 132 million of the global poor live in areas with high flood risk. So flood is also contributing for poverty. So this is very, very important. You could see here, come down, okay. So the poverty line was coming down like the number of poor were coming like this. So the number of poor here, you can see 740 million poor were in this 2050, and it was coming down, and it was expected to come down to 580 by 2021. But because of COVID, the coming down of the number of poor has started increasing. Now again, it is going back. The number of poor are increasing because of COVID. I estimated that 71 million people have pushed into extreme poverty because of COVID-19. And poverty will be broadly unchanged between, unchanged 21-22. And you can see in India, the population is growing at 1%, real GDP is growing at 2%. But out of this 2%, what is the share of poor? There are around 30% of poor. Meaning, out of 2 rupees, they are supposed to have almost 60 paisa They're supposed to have 60 paisa if equally distributed. But this 30% of poor are not having even single paisa. That's the study reveals. So because of COVID, we are seeing the new poor, and the new poors are probably found in urban areas, are more in informal sectors, and particularly from manufacturing sectors. The new poor after COVID-19, we are finding them in urban areas, and they were engaged in informal sectors, they were engaged in manufacturing sectors, and it was very less in agriculture sector. And live in cognizant urban settings and work in the sectors most affected by lockdowns and mobility restrictions. The middle income countries such as India and Nigeria will be significantly affected. Where the middle income country people are living, maybe home to the 82% of the new poor, meaning after COVID-19, 82% of the new poors are living only in two countries. One is Nigeria, second one is India. You can just imagine. These are all the data provided by the World Bank and the United Nations. The new research estimates that climate change, what we are talking about, I think from next day there is a world level meeting about the sustainable development and reducing carbon footprints. India is also a signatory and it's also participating. The deliberations going on since 7th. The deliberation is going on the carbon footprint in Cairo. Okay, so if the climate change goes in the same level, meaning at the same rate, so meaning at what rate the heat is increasing, at what rate the carbon emission is increasing, nitrogen is increasing, at what rates the mountains are melting down, at what rate the sea level is increasing. If this kind of the climate change goes, will drive 68 million to 132 million into poverty by 2030. Meaning these are all the new pools. Because of this climate change, the poverty is increasing. The climate change is a particularly acute threat for the countries in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, because most of the countries are living next to the shore and they will be affected. The regions where most of the global pools are concentrated. We could see here the inequality, where the inequality is high. So we're talking about poverty and inequality, the development apart. So where you can see the dark red, particularly in South America, you can see these red colors, where the inequality is greater than 60%. Whereas you can see the green colors, that is inequality is less than 25%. In India, it is around 30 to 34% inequalities exist. In India, you can see India and Pakistan. So in Russia, it is almost 45 to 50%. China, you can see inequality is 40 to 45%. Like you can see Japan, the green color, yeah, you can see the poverty is less than 25%. Sorry, inequality is less than 25%. So the Gini coefficient, it's a tool to measure the inequality exists in a country or in a community. Okay, you can also see these kind of colors, African countries, yeah. And this is the poverty level in India. In Karnataka, it is between 20 to 30, whereas in Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, the poverty is only in Kashmir, not only in Jammu. Kashmir data is not available. In these countries, only in these countries and some part of the eastern India, the poverty is less than 10%. Otherwise, in most of the places, it is 10 to 20%. And in states like Karnataka, it is 20 to 30%. And in the states like Jharkhand, Andhra Pradesh, sorry, not this is not Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, it is here, it is between 40 to 50, sorry, 30 to 40%. Very interestingly, in Madhya Pradesh, in Uttar Pradesh, it is the poverty is very, very high. The poverty is very high. In it is between 40 to 50%. Where in Madhya Pradesh, in Uttar Pradesh, where the world leaders are living. So this is the work of the Thomas Piketty, and he is talking about how the inequality exists during 1946, 1980, and during 1980 and between 2014. There are two parts. Look at here, 1946 to 1980, and here it is 1980 to 2014. Just I'm reading this, the bottom 50% saw a 102% increase in pre-tax income between 1946 98. This 50% of the people's income increased by 102% during this period, 46 80. You come down here, the same bottom 50% saw a only 1% increase in their income. Here, the period is same. We could see 46 to 80, meaning almost 24 years. Here also 80 to 2014 is 34 years. Again, the same period interval, 102% increase. Here only 1%. Come down to the top 10, top 0.1%. Just 1 out of 10, meaning that is 1%. 54% increase. The income of the rich people increased by 54%. And today, the income of the people, the top 0.1%, 320%. You can see here, 320%. Meaning, what I mean to say, there were more opportunities for the poor people to increase their income before 1980 or before reforms. After reforms, after the globalization, the income earning opportunities of poor, it is very, very less, and the income earning opportunities of rich is very, very, very high, 320%. Meaning rich becoming rich and the poor becoming poor. The income of Adani, Ambani doubled in every year, whereas the income of the poor people is going down. The real income of the poor people is going down. Literally, it's going down. Last year is having 10,000. This year is having 10,000. 10,000 is not the same work what it was in the previous year. Previous year, out of 10,000, he could have been buying a refrigerator, but this time he is not buying a refrigerator. He can't buy. So that is the situation, because the inflation, the real value of the money is going down, meaning the present world is creating more inequality and injecting more force into the system. So meaning the question remains, then for whom for we are doing this development? Development for whom? This is not only my question, this is the question of the many of the thinkers and the people, those who worried about, concerned about the poor and worried about the future of, sustainable future of their children, whether they are rich or the poor. The life of our future generation will be under threat if we are continued in the same fashion, because already told, poverty, increasing inequality, it's not only risk for the poor, it is also threat for the rich. Thank you. If you have any questions, you can ask me.
Namaste.
Namaste, sir. Namaste, sir.